The gentle clink of expensive crystal and quiet murmurs of judgment filled the air at La Maison, downtown's most exclusive French restaurant. My father's 60th birthday celebration was in full swing. Though celebration felt like too warm a word for the Arctic atmosphere at our table. I'm Olivia Winters, though my family prefers to call me Liv. Their way of diminishing everything about me, right down to my name. At 29, I'm the youngest of 3 children and, according to family consensus, the only failure in a long line of Winters' success stories. I adjusted my simple black blazer, purchased from a department store, a fact my sister Katherine had already pointed out twice, and took another sip of water. Around me, my family was dressed in their finest, designer labels, luxury watches, and enough diamonds to finance a small country. Liv, darling. My mother Margaret's voice dripped with practiced concern. Are you sure you don't want wine? Your father's treating. She emphasized the word treating as if to remind me I couldn't afford the $200 bottles they were casually ordering. Water's fine, Mom. I'm working later. My brother James nearly choked on his foie gras, still picking up shifts at that diner. What is it now? 3 years. 4, I corrected quietly. The Bluebird Cafe. A waitress, Katherine sighed, adjusting her Cartier bracelet. With a Stanford degree. Daddy, do you remember when she turned down that position at Goldman Sachs? Could have been junior VP by now. Dad looked up from his phone briefly. Let's not rehash old disappointments. It's supposed to be a celebration. I bit back a smile. If they only knew about the meeting I'd had that morning. About the papers sitting in my lawyer's office. About what was about to hit the evening news in exactly 47 minutes. Speaking of celebrations, Katherine continued. James just closed another major acquisition. Tell them, James. My brother straightened his Hermes tie. Winters Investment just acquired Peterson Tech. Small firm, but their AI division showed promise. Got it for a steal. They didn't even know what they had. I took another sip of water, remembering the frantic call I'd received from Peterson Tech's CEO last week. Are you sure about this, Ms. Winters? Selling to your brother's firm seems. Trust me, Tom, I had assured him. Everything's proceeding exactly as planned. Liv? Mom's voice snapped me back. Are you even listening? Your brother is talking about his success. Sorry, just thinking about my shift schedule. James laughed, that sharp, dismissive sound I'd grown to expect. Must be complicated, keeping track of all those coffee orders. How much does that pay now? Minimum wage plus tips? Something like that. You know, Katherine leaned forward, her diamond earrings catching the light. My friend Sarah's company is hiring administrative assistants. Entry level, but it's a real job, in an office. Thank you, but I'm good where I am. Good. Dad finally put his phone down. Olivia, you live in a studio apartment in the worst part of town. Drive a car that's older than your career. Haven't taken a vacation in years. That's not good. That's settling. I checked my watch. 32 minutes. We're just worried about you, dear, Mom added. All that potential, just wasted. Even your old professors ask about you. Such a bright student, they say. What happened? What happened was 4 years of careful planning, of building something revolutionary while they were all too busy judging me to notice, of waiting for exactly the right moment to. My phone buzzed. A message from Marcus, my CFO. Stock transfer complete. Press release in 30. You ready for this? I texted back. Born ready. Family's all here. At least she's not asking for money, James offered, as if that was a consolation. Remember when she wanted us to invest in her tech startup idea? Katherine laughed. What was it called again? Winter something? Winter Tech Solutions, I supplied. The company name I'd abandoned 4 years ago when I realized my family would never take me seriously. The day I decided to build everything under a different name, a different identity, while maintaining my waitress cover. Well, thank goodness, you didn't waste any family resources on that, Mom said. Though speaking of resources, James, tell them about the new house you're buying. James launched into a detailed description of his future mansion, complete with wine cellar and private tennis court. I let his words wash over me, watching the minutes tick down. 10 minutes. 5 minutes. 1 minute. The restaurant's background music suddenly cut out, replaced by the familiar jingle of the evening news. The massive screen above the bar, usually showing muted sports games, flickered to life with the volume up. Breaking news, the anchor announced. In what's being called the largest tech acquisition in the city's history, mysterious company Phoenix Digital has just revealed its ownership of 12 major tech firms, including Peterson Tech. James's fork clattered against his plate. What? The combined value of these acquisitions exceeds $4 billion, the anchor continued. And in a surprising revelation, Phoenix Digital's founder and CEO has been announced as. My family's faces turned toward the screen in perfect synchronization, just in time to see my corporate headshot appear. Olivia Winters, who reportedly built her tech empire in secret while working as a waitress at a local cafe. The silence that fell over our table was absolute. Mom's wine glass froze halfway to her lips. Dad's phone slipped from his fingers. Katherine's perfect composure cracked like fine china. I dabbed my mouth with my napkin and stood slowly. I should go. My shift starts in an hour. Your shift? James choked out. Of course, I smiled. I own the cafe too, along with this restaurant, and the building it's in. Amazing what you can build while people underestimate you. I gathered my department store blazer and practical handbag. Dinner's on me. Order whatever you want. After all, I paused at the table's edge, savoring the moment. I can afford it. As I walked toward the door, I could hear the whispers starting. Could feel the ripple of recognition spreading through the restaurant as other diners connected the news announcement to the scene they just witnessed. My phone buzzed again. Marcus, stock's up 30% already. Ready for tomorrow's board meeting? I stepped out into the cool evening air, where my driver waited with a car that definitely wasn't my old Honda. Ready? I texted back. And Marcus? Make sure the boardroom has a good view of my brother's office building, the one I just bought. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong. It's letting them discover exactly how wrong they've been all along. And this was just the beginning. The morning after my father's birthday dinner, I sat in my real office, not the small locker room at the Bluebird Cafe, but the entire top floor of the Phoenix Digital headquarters downtown. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city I'd quietly been reshaping for the past 4 years. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since last night. 47 missed calls from James, 32 from Katherine, 65 from Dad, 51 from Mom, and exactly 248 text messages, each one more desperate than the last. I scrolled through them while sipping my morning coffee, the same cheap diner blend I'd grown to love during my waitress years. Old habits die hard. James, Olivia, we need to talk. This is insane. Mom, Darling, please call us. We're worried. Katherine. Oh, and he live. Why didn't you tell me? I've been trying to reach Sarah about that assistant job. Dad. Family emergency meeting. 9 a.m. The firm. Be there. I checked my watch. 8:57 a.m. They'd be gathering now in the Winters Investment Partners conference room, probably expecting me to come running at their summons like I used to. Instead, I turned to my laptop and opened the video conference app. At exactly 9:00 a.m., I sent them a link. My phone rang immediately. What is this? James's voice was tight with barely controlled rage. If you want to meet, we'll do it my way, I replied calmly. Click the link. One by one, their faces appeared on my screen. Dad at the head of their conference table, looking older than he had last night. Mom beside him, eyes red-rimmed like she hadn't slept. James pacing behind them, and Katherine perched on the edge of her seat, perfectly manicured nails drumming against the mahogany. Why aren't you here in person? Dad demanded. I leaned back in my chair, letting them see the city skyline behind me. I have 3 other meetings this morning. This seemed more efficient. Efficient? James exploded. You've been lying to us for years, playing some twisted game, pretending to be a waitress while building a multi-billion-dollar tech empire, I supplied. And I never lied. You just never asked the right questions. Olivia, Mom started, her voice wobbling. We just don't understand. Why did you let us think? Let us treat you like a failure. I finished for her, like someone beneath you? That's exactly why. I pulled up a document on my screen and shared it. This is a transcript from the family dinner 3 years ago when James announced his promotion to CEO. Would you like me to read your exact words, Dad? He paled slightly. That's not necessary. Thank God James stepped up. I read anyway. He understands what it takes to succeed in this business, unlike some people who just don't have the stomach for real power. Katherine shifted uncomfortably. That was a long time ago. 2 months ago, I continued, switching documents. At Cousin Sarah's wedding, James told everyone I was finding myself through menial labor. Last Christmas, Katherine suggested I might qualify for low-income housing assistance. And just last night, you all sat there assuming I couldn't afford a meal at a restaurant I own. We were worried about you, Mom protested. No, I said quietly. You were comfortable with me failing. It made you feel better about yourselves. I pulled up another document. This one showing a list of acquisitions and their values. While you were pitying me, I was building something extraordinary. Not through family connections or inherited privilege, but through actual innovation and hard work. James snorted. Is that supposed to impress us? Anyone can get lucky with a few tech deals. 12 major acquisitions. I cut in. All prime tech firms. Total portfolio value as of this morning, $4.7 billion. And yes, I smiled slightly. That includes Peterson Tech, the company you thought you were acquiring. The color drained from James's face. That's impossible. We had a deal. You had a front row seat to a lesson in due diligence, I corrected. Tom Peterson was working for me the entire time. You were so busy looking down your nose at the waitress that you never bothered to check who really owned his company's patents. Dad leaned forward, and I recognized the look in his eyes. It was the same one he used to give potential business partners, calculating, measuring, looking for an angle. Olivia, he said, his voice taking on that smooth deal-maker tone. Clearly we've underestimated you. But now that we know what you've built, we can work together. Merge Phoenix Digital with Winters Investment. Combine our resources. No. The word hung in the air like a thunderclap. What do you mean, no? Katherine asked, incredulous. I mean, no. I'm not interested in a merger or a partnership or whatever scheme you're already cooking up to get control of what I've built. We're family, Mom pleaded. Family? I laughed softly. Yesterday, I was the embarrassment you've had to explain at parties. Today, I'm family? I pulled up one final document. This is today's schedule for the Winters Investment Building. Your lease expires in 60 days. I won't be renewing it. You can't do that. James shot to his feet. That's been our headquarters for 30 years. Actually, I can, and I am. Consider it a reminder of what happens when you judge people based on appearances. I checked my watch. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a meeting with the governor about making our city the next major tech hub. A real meeting in person. Olivia, wait. Dad started, but I was already reaching for the disconnect button. Oh, and James, I added, clean out your office by the end of the month. Some of us waitresses might need to mop the floors. I ended the call and sat back, letting out a long breath. My assistant's voice came through the intercom. Ms. Winters, the governor's office is on line 1. I straightened my blazer. Armani now, though they'd never know, and smiled. Put him through. And Sarah? Send a gift basket to the staff at the Bluebird Cafe. They're about to get some very angry visitors. As I picked up the phone, I glanced at the framed photo on my desk. It was from my first day at the cafe. Apron tied, name tag crooked, serving coffee with a smile. The woman who trained me, Betty, had taught me more about people and business than any MBA program ever could. Sometimes, she told me, you have to look up from the bottom to see how high you can really build. I had built higher than my family ever imagined possible, and I was just getting started. The next 2 weeks unfolded exactly as I'd expected. My family, never ones to accept defeat gracefully, launched a campaign to either discredit me or force their way into my success. First came the rumors, whispers in country club lounges about how I must have acquired my fortune through questionable means. After all, how could a waitress build a billion-dollar empire legitimately? I was reviewing acquisition proposals in my office when my assistant Sarah burst through the door. Your sister's here. She doesn't have an appointment. I glanced at the security feed. Katherine stood in the lobby, Hermel's bag clutched like a shield, looking uncomfortable among the young, casually dressed tech employees bustling through our open-concept workspace. Sent her up. When she walked in, her eyes widened at my office. No doubt she'd expected something less impressive. The space probably made her firm's executive suite look like a storage closet. Nice view, she said, trying for casual as she sat across from me. Though the furniture's a bit minimal. I looked at my deliberately simple desk, chosen because it matched the one Betty used at the Bluebird Cafe. What do you want, Katherine? She pulled out a folder. I've been going through some old family documents. Did you know that technically, as the oldest, I have a claim to any business using the Winters name? Stop. I held up my hand. Phoenix Digital has no connection to Winters Investment. I made sure of that. Her face fell. But surely we could work something out. James is struggling. Dad too. That building was their legacy. No, I corrected. That building was their comfort zone. They're not angry about losing an office. They're angry about losing control. They sent me to offer you a deal, she admitted finally. Of course they did. Let me guess. They'll stop spreading rumors about my business practices if I lease them back their office space. Her silence was answer enough. I turned back to face her. Here's what's going to happen instead. You're going to leave here and tell them that their threats are as ineffective as their business strategy. Then you're going to watch as I acquire the Wilson portfolio next week. Yes, the same one James has been chasing for 2 years. How did you know about Wilson? I smiled. Because I own the building where your firm holds its confidential board meetings. And unlike you, I actually talk to the maintenance staff. They hear everything. Just then my phone buzzed. A text from security. James Winters, attempting to access server room. Right on schedule, I murmured. Excuse me, Katherine. I have to deal with something. Our brother just broke into my building's restricted area, probably looking for evidence of wrongdoing. Her face paled. How did you? Cameras everywhere. Would you like to join me? It should be enlightening. We took my private elevator down. When the doors opened, we found James being detained by 2 security guards, both former Blue Bird Cafe employees I'd promoted. Looking for something? I asked calmly. James struggled against the guards. You must have dirt hidden somewhere. Nobody builds this much this fast without. Without what? Hard work? Understanding how technology actually works. Treating people with respect regardless of their position. I nodded to the guards. These men used to serve coffee with me. Now they run my building security because I saw their potential instead of looking down on them. Olivia, Katherine interrupted. You've made your point. What do you want from us? Want? I laughed softly. I don't want anything from you. That's what none of you understand. I built this company by choice, not necessity. I worked at the cafe by choice, not failure. I turned to the guards. Please escort my brother out. And James? The next time you try to break in, I'll press charges. Family or not. That evening, I received an email from Dad. Olivia, your mother and I have been doing some reflection. Perhaps we were wrong about your choices. The firm is struggling without the building, and your recent acquisitions have shown us that maybe we don't understand the market as well as we thought. I'd like to have dinner. Just us. No business talk, no deals, just a father trying to understand his daughter. Dad, I stared at the message for a long time, remembering all the dinners where they'd looked through me. All the times they dismissed my ideas. All the moments they chose prestige over understanding. Finally, I replied, Dad, dinner is fine, but not at La Maison. Meet me at the Blue Bird Cafe. It's where the real work happens, where real people build real things. If you want to understand me, start by understanding them. Come alone. No James, no Katherine, no hidden agendas. Olivia. The next evening, I sat in my usual booth at the Blue Bird, nursing a cup of coffee. The door chimed, and Dad walked in, looking completely out of place in his bespoke suit. The regular customers. Workers ending their shifts, students with laptops, families on budgets. Looked up briefly before returning to their meals. Dad slid into the booth, clearly uncomfortable. Interesting choice of venue. This is where I learned my most valuable lessons about business, I said. Not at Stanford, not at the firm. Here, listening to people who actually build things. He picked up the laminated menu, probably the first non-fine dining menu he'd touched in decades. I don't understand why you did it this way. Why not just tell us? Would you have listened? Or would you have tried to control it, shape it into your version of success? He was quiet for a long moment. We thought we were protecting you. No, I said firmly. You thought you were protecting your image of what success should look like. You never asked what I wanted to build. Betty came over, still working the evening shift by choice, though she now owned shares in both the cafe and Phoenix Digital. The usual, Olivia? She asked with a warm smile. Thanks, Betty. How's Michael doing at MIT? Top of his class, she beamed. Those scholarships you arranged really helped. After she left, Dad stared at me. You know their names, their stories. I know everyone's names, their stories, their potential. That's why I succeeded where you and James failed. You see buildings as assets. I see them as communities. Dad looked around the cafe with new eyes, finally seeing what I'd seen years ago. Teach me, he said suddenly. I raised an eyebrow. Teach you what? Not about business, not about real estate. Teach me how to see what you see. For the first time in years, I heard genuine humility in his voice. Okay, I said slowly. But we start from the ground up, literally. Tomorrow morning, 5:00 a.m. Meet me at the Blue Bird. Wear comfortable shoes. What are we doing at 5:00 a.m.? I smiled. Making coffee, serving people. Learning that success isn't just about what you own. It's about what you build and who you build it with. As we finished our coffee, I noticed Betty bringing over a piece of pie, my usual end-of-shift order. Add his to my tab, Dad said quickly, reaching for his wallet. No need, Betty replied. Olivia owns the place, has for 3 years. Never changed a thing except to make sure we all had health insurance and a stake in the business. Dad set down his fork, finally understanding. I hadn't just built buildings. I'd built relationships, trust, and communities. I'm sorry, he said quietly, for not seeing you. Really seeing you. I know, I replied. That's why tomorrow we start with open eyes. As we left the cafe, Dad looked up at the skyline, my skyline. You know, he said thoughtfully, I never really looked up from my office until now. I smiled. Sometimes you have to start at the bottom to truly understand the view from the top. The next morning, when Dad arrived at the Blue Bird at 5:00 a.m., he found me already there in my old apron, helping Betty open for the day. The look of surprise on his face was priceless, but the lesson was clear. True power isn't about titles or corner offices. It's about understanding every level of what you build, respecting everyone who helps build it, and never forgetting where you started. Even now, years later, I still keep my old Bluebird Cafe apron hanging in my office, not as a reminder of where I came from, but as a reminder of who I really am. Someone who built success from the ground up. Because sometimes the greatest revenge isn't proving people wrong. It's becoming so undeniably right that they have no choice but to see it for themselves. And as I watched my father tie on an apron for the first time in his life, I knew that some lessons are best learned over a cup of coffee and a slice of humble pie.